Okay, so we have a viewer appreciation. What do you call it? Viewer appreciation? What? Prize? Viewer appreciation? Okay. Tonight it's going to be the, you don't have to really do anything. I'll do it. It's for a poster from the International Motocross Museum. We did grips last week. We'll do a poster tonight.
Okay.
There was something else.
You want to get rid of
There was
that?
something else.
Give away
You want to
that-
get rid of that?
try and give
that.
I want to try and give away that Ventco bag yet. I'll make, remind me when I do the announcement. I don't have that here. But I want to do it. Yeah. Ventco bag. It's the last race. Somebody's got to pick 3 in a row. I don't care if they're in reverse or forward.
Last three, middle three,
Any three.
last three.
Any three.
Yeah.
All right? All right. I got to start the show. I love you.
Love you. Okay, here we
Okay,
go.
here we go.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching Gunnar Motocross Q&A. And I'm your host, Joe Buddy. I don't know why we're getting feedback here. Hang on a second. Is the volume all the way down on your phone?
No,
Which one is it?
the big one.
This one?
Yeah. So are you getting that?
Is it going down?
It's all the way down. And I got the thing on too.
What about now?
That's weird. What's going on? Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah.
I'm the only guy here. Welcome to Vintage Motocross Q&A. I am your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you for joining me this evening. Alongside me is, of course, my hostess and beautiful wife, Sue Abadi, who got a little turned around with her microphone this evening. Anyway, I want to thank you all for being here and thank the sponsors of my show, as always. Motion Pro, Preston Petty Product, Ventco, the Moto Barn, ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com, Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Full Circle Racing, and Mike Chamberlain. I also have to thank our good buddy Al Roof, who's been very, very supportive of us all these years. Durf's Cycle Shop, thank you, Mike Hudgens, and our good buddy Sean Gomes has resurfaced from FastGuyStuff.com. Don't forget to keep sharing the show because we will be giving away a nice gift. A little bit later on in the show, we will announce who the winner is of the posters from the International Motocross Museum. That's compliments of Terry Good and the International Motocross Museum. You just got to go over there, pick out a poster, and it will be mailed to you. Okay. I did make an announcement in the past couple of days. We will have Gunnar Lindstrom in here a little bit later on. Gunnar Lindstrom, of course, was the team manager for Honda and Husqvarna many years ago. And during that time, he hired the late Eric Crippa, who sadly passed away in the past week. He was a fabulous mechanic, brought a couple of racers into a national championship. But we will have Gunnar here a little bit later on in the hour talking about Eric Crippa and his time at Honda and Husqvarna. Right now, we're going to go to the next time try this segment, which is brought to you by Ventco. Paint matching. Right here, you can see where there's a nice set of red plastic for a 1979 Honda Elsinore. Right next to it, which looks like a little phone, it's not. It's a scanner. What you can do, the next time you want to make sure your metal tank and your frame match that beautiful plastic you bought. Or if maybe you bought some, let's say you bought some yellow plastic from vintage Suzuki and you want to make sure your tank matches. You have a metal tank bike and you want to make sure that tank matches. You want to go down to an auto body supplier that's in your area, a professional auto body supplier, somebody that supplies paint to body shops in your area. What they're going to do is they're going to take a profit of the piece of plastic that you have. What does that mean? They're going to scan it, just like a little scanner that you see in a supermarket. They run it over
that piece of plastic, and that scanner reports back and tells them exactly what the mixture is to get the exact color paint that's on that plastic, or your old metal tank if it's in good condition. You can see it right there. There's a little formula that pops up. And I think what they do is they mix it in grams. They don't do it in ounces with a little eyedropper thing. They mix it in grams, and you're going to get an exact match to the plastic that you're putting on your bike when you want the tank to match. One of the experiences I've had with it was VMX plastic. They sell some great plastic out in Angel Fire, New Mexico. Beautiful Honda stuff, beautiful Mako stuff. The thing is, the Honda stuff and their Mako stuff, pretty much about the same color red. And they're not an exact match to the Honda or the Mako. Real nice stuff. But if you're doing a nice show quality or even just a race quality bike, but you want everything to match, you want to get down to an auto body supplier and have them take a profit of a nice clean piece of plastic that you want to use to match your bike. If you have an NOS, have him match that. He can give you the paint back with an exact match. If you're using reproduction plastic, which are sometimes not exact, have him take a profit of that. You'll get paint back mixed up, and that will match your plastic perfectly.
I'm Steve Wise. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Ventco, who already has a full line of vintage parts, now has air shocks that are an exact duplicate of the original air shocks so popular in the late 70s. So whether you're looking to build a full racer or museum showpiece, these shocks will give you that incredible 70s look and improve your bike's performance. These new air shocks are fully rebuildable with Ventco rebuild kits, and all shocks are hand assembled in the USA with all new components. Every component is brand new. Just like the originals, our air shocks are adjustable with 2 chambers, high and low pressure, giving you tremendous flexibility for settings of your bike suspension. The Ventco air shocks come fully assembled and ready for installation. Just add air or nitrogen. The kits include the manual and spacers. Visit Ventco.com to check out the air shocks and all that Ventco has to offer to help you get back on track and keep that ride going.
Yeah, got a lot of great stuff from Ventco. Right now, they've got a special going on for rod kits. They make a lot of rod kits for Suzuki's, like 30 different models, including RMs, TSs, TCs, TMs. And they've got them all there over at Ventco.com, as well as some great top-end kits as well. Get over to Ventco.com. We've got something new for you tonight. We partnered up with a young gentleman named Noah Lung. Noah Lung, and his Instagram page is called One Lung Racing. And this is something I've been asking you guys to do for a while. Send in your Moto Showcase bikes. You could even send them in a video. Well, I talked to Noah about this. He decided to do it. The Moto Showcase is, of course, brought to you by PrestonPettyProducts.com. Be sure to get over to PrestonPettyProducts.com to get all the fenders and plastic that we've grown accustomed to throughout the past 50 years. Thank you, Paul Stainard. Because of you, the legend continues. Now, let's get on with our Noah Lung video for the Moto Showcase. Here it is right here.
Hey guys, it's Noah from One Lung Racing, and I just wanted to go over some key companies that I use to help me build this Elsinore 125. So starting off with the engine, all the gaskets, the piston, and the crank were all from Ventco. Really good company, really good high quality products, and they're really not super expensive. So if you're looking for that kind of stuff for your restoration, I would highly suggest Ventco to get your internal engine parts. We went with DC Plastics for a full brand new plastic kit on this thing. So it came with both the side covers, the rear fender, the front number plate, and the front fender. All of the brand new looking hardware all over this engine is from Spec Bolt. Really good company, really high quality, and they organized all the bolts for you so you know exactly where they go when you get them in. Our tires are Dunlop Geomax MX34s. Really aggressive tire, really good for racing. So we've got those on the front and on the rear, obviously. We've got them on both sides, and we've got some cool Dunlop stickers to make them look really official. So if you guys are looking for MX tires, I would suggest Dunlops if you're trying to race. One of my favorite parts from this build, which I think sets the bike apart, is the Nolene factory racing shocks. I think these are awesome. They have a whole assortment of vintage shocks, so if you're trying to race vintage bikes, Nolene is definitely a really good place to look for shocks. Another key part in this build is the full 3D printed airbox from ReplicaMotorcycles.com. They make really high quality boots and airboxes. So this one's actually upgraded to a 1976 airbox, but really high quality parts, especially if you're not trying to find an original one, which can be super expensive. So I would definitely recommend replicamotorcycleparts.com.
And there you have it. And I will remind anyone in the future, do not shoot in portrait, shoot in landscape. But I want to thank Noah Lung. Did a great job, had it all edited. The sound was great, a nice little bike. And yeah, Noah Lung. Be sure to check out One Lung Racing. He has an Instagram account. That segment, of course, brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. We're going to have a poster winner a little bit later on. What's up next? Did you know? This is a segment that is taken care of very nicely every week by our good friend Jeff Kokoski. And Jeff wants to know if you know anything about the Catalina Grand Prix. The history of the Catalina Grand Prix. Catalina Island, or more formally Santa Catalina Island, is a beautiful rocky 75 square mile island situated in the Pacific Ocean, just about 25 miles off of Long Beach. This small rugged island was originally inhabited by Native American tribes until Spanish explorers showed up in the 1500s. Afterwards, the island was changed hands to the Spanish, to the Mexicans, and finally to the United States. Now, if you don't know this, there's always a huge race there every year, a motorcycle race. And it started, well, since the 1920s. Catalina was primarily a tourist destination for 90% of the island's population, which was about 4,200. But over 1 million tourists would visit the island every year via ferry from the California coast. Because of the island's delicate ecosystem, the use of motor vehicles on the island is restricted and limited, which translates to a 25-year-long wait if you wanted to bring a vehicle to that island. Inspired by the British Isle, TT, the Isle of Man, some race promoters from California in the early 50s decided they would like to bring an Isle of Man-style race there. And Catalina proximity to California, with its varied terrain and island seclusion, offered the necessary blend of city and mountain riding to make this absolutely an ideal place to do that. The two-day Catalina Grand Prix included a 60-mile race for bikes up to 250 cc's and a 100-mile race for larger machines. Races were 10 laps long, and there was a 60-mile running a 6-mile course and a 100-miler on a 10-mile course. Bikes arrived by barge from California, from the coast, and were immediately impounded. Riders were not allowed to practice or pre-ride the course. In fact, the bikes are not allowed to even be started until an hour before the race. Very interesting. Since that race is a one-of-a-kind, non-sanctioned event, AMA rules did not apply. The first race occurred in 1951. Within a few years, hundreds of racers were competing for two classes. Future AMA Hall of Fame racers Walt Fulton won the first one. Other notable winners were Bud Ekins, who, of course, jumped that barbed wire fence for Steve McQueen as a stunt double in The Great Escape in 1955, and, of course, Chuck Feets Minor. The race also attracted some Hollywood A-listers, including Steve McQueen, Lee Marvin, and Keenan Wynn. The races were held annually each May from 1951 to 1958. After 1958, it's been said that Lee Marvin worked the crowd homebound ferry into a rowdy frenzy, gestually calling for a mutiny. While that in and of itself was bad, it was more damaging incident to a Waikiki bar owner, and his name was Mel Porter. And I think there's I had a picture here. I think this is it. Kind of shows the town and what's going on. No, this is the bike in the impound. Anyway, Mel Porter, poor soul, he got mugged on his way home from his bar on a Saturday night. Things really went awry for having any more races there. And the Chamber of Commerce and the mayor decided to shut everything down. Although the story didn't end here, fortunately it does. And it was a dozen years before Vinny Manzak, an enthusiastic member of Southern California Prospectors Motorcycle Club, decided to try and resurrect the Catalina race once again. And it ended, as I said, in 58. Now, December of 2010, 52-year hiatus, the Catalina GP, the race that was never supposed to happen again, well, it did happen again. And I'm going to have a picture here of what the course kind of looked like. Actually, this is one of the races from the day of the race. Here it is. What happened was Vinny, in his infinite wisdom, got the people in charge of the island. It needed some excavation work, and he said, fine, we'll get the excavation work done. You let us have Catalina Grand Prix here once again. Bob Sandbrand, the GP's only two-time winner in 57 and 58, was the race's grand marshal at this time. And there was a lot of people there for this race, including Kurt Caselli, Ricky Johnson, Travis Pastrana, Kurt Nichol, Danny Laporte, Preston Petty, Dave Pingree, Colton Hecker, just to name a few. Malcolm Smith, who could not afford to race the Catalina GP back in his youth, was also there for this race once again. Also, Honda-mounted Baja 1000 Hare and Hound champion Kendall Norman was there. As an Enthusiasm 2010 crowd forwarded to the event, it cut off again as we were getting ready to do it again in 2020, and it doesn't appear that the Catalina GP will ever happen again. It was just a magical event. I had only been living in California since July, and this was in December of 2010. It was a fascinating time, and I got to see, well, the Catalina GP and so many people there. But the one thing that will be most memorable for me of the Catalina GP was the first time I met this man, Preston Petty. In this picture right here, all the way to the right, is John Rice, Tammy Rice's father. And I have to thank Tammy for getting me in touch with Preston on this very night. But as you could see, I look like a wide-eyed kid at some Hollywood opening as I stare at Preston Petty. It was great. I got him to sign my helmet, and it was truly an absolutely amazing time to meet Preston Petty and see everyone at the Catalina GP. We are going to take a short break, and then we will be back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A. Right, Susie? Susie, you're picking out a winner?
I have one.
You have one?
Yes.
All right. We're going to come back with just a couple of minutes.
Hi, I'm Warren Reed. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit organization, a 501c3. Be sure to get over there. Any donations you make, it could be a motorcycle, it could be a monetary donation, whatever you buy from the International Motocross Museum is 100% tax deductible. InternationalMotocrossMuseum.org. Gunnar Lindstrom is in the wings. I'm looking for his camera. I don't see it on. Susie, get a hold of Gunnar.
I did.
And we'll try and get him on here in just a minute. In the meantime, it's time for the What's It Worth segment. The What's It Worth segment is brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Be sure to see Tom McAllister for all your nipples, spokes, lacing, and truing needs, and all your wheel needs for your on and off-road bikes. This is, of course, the segment of the show where I encourage you, the viewers at home, to guess how much you think this bike recently sold for. Let's get a look at it. It's a 1976 Honda CR250. I will tell you that this bike sold on May 1st, and it was sold in Kingswood, Texas. This 1976 Honda CR250 Elsinore was purchased by the seller in 2023 and was disassembled and refurbished over the next year, with the work including a powder coating of the frame, rebuilding the key and carburetor, replacing the fork seals, rims, spokes, brake pads, handlebars, clutch, and various bearings. The bike is powered by a 248cc two-stroke single paired with a 5-speed transmission. Other equipment include a black finish upswept expansion chamber, a chrome Kickstarter, side number plates, high-mounted fenders, preloaded adjustable rear shocks, a front number plate that matches the rest of the bike. The CR250 Elsinore is now offered with no title in Kingswood, Texas, and there was no reserve on this bike. Looking over this bike, just from my perspective, looking at the pictures, it looked like a really nice machine. I mean, it was not restored really. Well, it wasn't restored by any stretch of the imagination. The hardware was not refinished. The wheels were not redone. But I'll tell you, it looked like a real nice bike. And here, you look at it in the picture, and yeah, really nice. And you know what surprises me here, and I would love to speak to the owner about this, how well the plastic actually looks like it matches the rest of the bike. Although it is a picture, you can't always tell exactly what's going on. So 1976 Honda CR250, how much do you think it sold for in that condition? It was a nice bike. How much? 4,000? 45? 55. This bike sold for $5,100 plus a 5% premium on Bring a Trailer. 5% premium, I think, comes to about another $250. So $5,350 was the sale price of this 1976 Honda CR250. And I am hoping to get Gunnar Lindstrom here in just a second. I see that he's here.
I messaged him.
Gunnar, can you hear me? No, I don't think Gunnar can hear me just yet. We're going to keep trying, waiting for Gunnar Lindstrom. In the meantime, we are going to move on to, hopefully I have something else to move on to here. We are going to be talking about, yeah, you know what? We're going to take a little break once again. We're going to hear from Motion Pro and give Gunnar a chance to get back in here. We'll talk about some Motion Pro specials when we get back. Okay? Susie, you trying to get a hold of Gunnar?
I messaged him, but
Okay. I see him here. I just can't get him in the mix.
Hey, it's Joe Abadi for Vintage Motocross Q&A. When you're replacing a cylinder or a gasket or doing a top end on your bike, many times it's very, very difficult to get to the nuts that are on the base. And you want to be sure that you torque those evenly whenever you change a top end. Motion Pro has come up with this great tool. It's the torque adapter, okay? You can put any size wrench in there and you can tighten it up. On the back is a 3/8 drive. You can put your torque wrench in there, get the wrench on the nut that's on the base of your cylinder, and make sure everything is torqued evenly. This is a great tool. I have one in the shop. We use it all the time. It comes with instructions as well. Go see your local dealer or get to motionpro.com. And don't forget, go over to Vintage Motocross Q&A to get a 20% discount on all Motion Pro tools.
We'll just take it. We'll take it from here right now. And it's unfortunate that we won't be able to have your video, but can you hear me okay?
Very well. Very well.
Okay. And I hope that the listeners at home could hear this as well. Okay. So we're on the line. We're on the line with Gunnar Lindstrom. Gunnar, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us tonight on such short notice.
Well, thank you. I wish it was a more pleasant subject, but unfortunately, we have to deal with it, things as they are.
We do, Gunnar. And of course, we are here tonight to talk about the late Eric Crippa, a very talented mechanic for both Husqvarna and for Honda. And you were the person who actually hired Eric for both of those jobs. And I would imagine you hired him for Husqvarna first?
Oh, of course, yes. That was in 1971, if I remember correctly. And we were down in San Diego then with Husky. And he worked actually over in El Cajon, over the hill, as we said there, for Don Ventco. And he came over and we talked, and he talked to some of the other mechanics and people we had there, in the Husky shop. And it was not as formal as you'd think it would be later on. But I said, well, Monday, come on over here Monday, we can pay you a little, and you can work with us. And he did, and that's how it started.
And what was he doing at Don Ventco's shop before he came over to Husky?
The word was, and he was actually world famous around San Diego because of porting Sachs cylinders. He was the go-to guy that could get those axes to fly.
Uh-huh.
And that's how it came about. So we needed somebody, obviously, with Husky that could port our cylinders and work on that. So that's the reputation he had, and it worked out very well. He was good.
Now, tell me this, Gunnar. I mean, how much, it's so different than it is today. How much input did the mechanic have on the motorcycle? How much leeway was he given? In other words, Eric was a very talented mechanic, and I know he brought Kent Howerton to a national championship, but how much leeway was he given to say, to port a cylinder or do what he wanted to do on that motorcycle?
Well, it was a different time, and especially with Husky and maybe some of the other Europeans there, because they did not have a headquarters like Yamaha or Honda or others had here in California. We were very much left alone, and mechanics had a lot of leeway. They could do almost unlimited changes to the bike and build, cylinders and exhaust pipes and make other changes. And he was very good at that, and he was the one that was there, that helped Ken Howerton do his tight liver, many other things too, of course. But Crippa was instrumental in that.
So now, did Eric or any other mechanics? I think of Jojo, Johansson, a couple of other American mechanics that worked for Husky. Did any of them actually have to go to Sweden for any training?
Well, generally no, but they didn't, because they worked pretty much under, whatever leadership there was. First me, and then eventually Rolf was there. Rolf Tiblin was there for quite some time, and of course Terry Knott was a team manager after I had left. So they again, they had a lot of leeway, and Eric was the lead guy with, that was the time when reed valves started coming in, and he was the only one that I can think of that actually visited Sweden in the winter and worked with Eivind Boysen on the reed valves and cylinders and worked in the dyno there. So far as I remember, none other did but Eric, but he was that qualified.
Yeah. Now, I also recall, Gunnar, and I don't know if you remember this, maybe you do, that Eric had installed 2 reed valves in a vertical position as opposed to horizontal. I think it was on Ken Howerton's bike, and where there were maybe a 4-pedal reed on it originally, he turned it into or a 2-pedal reed. He turned it into a 4-pedal reed by putting 2 reed valves side by side. Do you recall that?
I do not. I had probably left by that time.
Okay.
Because in 1975, I was on my own and actually working for Dirt Bike at the time. So I kept in touch with those guys a little bit, going to the events and watching and observing. But I was not, in any way able to make any decisions on their behalf. Not that they needed it anyway.
Okay, so
going back to what I said, there was a lot of leeway, and Eric and many others had cylinders of different kinds for different tracks. They had different types, they tried on, and they were pretty much a free-for-all for what you could do, with very few limitations, so far as I'm concerned.
Right. Now, I would also have to think, Gunnar, even though you said, well, it was kind of a loose atmosphere, and Eric is working with Don Ventco, come over to Husky on Monday. I would imagine, though, you still looked at a mechanic very carefully, and he had to have certain qualifications. Tell me about Eric's qualifications. What were some special things that you saw in him? Because let's not forget, you not only hired him at Husky, you hired him at Honda as well.
Well, when he came to Honda, of course, we knew all about him. I knew all about him. Well, I thought I knew all about him, but
right.
from Husky, so I knew he was qualified enough to do the work. So no particular big resume was needed for that. But like I said, when we hired him for Husky, it was pretty loose, and there was no document signed. No, there was HR department, that would come in and look at anything. He just showed up on Monday morning, and we started working and looking into what needed to be done.
Right.
And he did it, and eventually, of course, he became the lead guy. The other mechanics we had, as good as they were, they were not up to Eric's standards for supporting and building pipes and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, Eric was an innovator, and he experimented, and he was often successful.
Gunnar, tell me this now. When you hired him at Honda, who was he the mechanic for? How long was he there? Can you embellish on that a bit for us?
You know, it's funny. That was, of course, almost 10 years later that he came to Honda, but I don't remember much of the details there, because then we had an HR, and then you had to go somewhere and sign papers and do that kind of stuff. So I don't recall as vividly as I did, when you started with Husky almost 10 years earlier. So, but it was much more formal. He had worked with Chuck's son the year before at Husky, in '78. And Chuck, of course, did some European Grand Prix there. I wasn't there at the time, but I doubted that Eric traveled with him to Europe. I think when Chuck was in Europe, he was supported directly by the factory in Sweden. So, and there's some good stories about that, because Chuck was hurt at the time and could not, but he couldn't live up to the expectations that we put on him when he came there. But that's another story for another day.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time, Gunnar, to drop in with us here on such short notice. I apologize to the viewer that that we didn't get a chance to see your handsome face, although I do have your picture right here, and you look quite dashing, I must say.
Well, thank you very much. One thing I wanted to mention that fits in very well. When we worked with Penton there in '71 and '72, Ted Penton, the brother of John Penton, had actually bought 2 huge mail sorting buses in Texas, and these were government vehicles that were actually used to sort mail as they drove down the road. Buses were equipped for long haul travel, with the right transmission and whatnot. So they were not city buses in any way. They were highway haulers, and they had. I saw them before they took them apart. They had all these little pockets where somebody would walk around in there and sort mail and put them in the right little bin, so they could be emptied when they come. And Eric became the driver of that one for Husky. That was the first real diesel transporter for any team, as far as I can remember. And there were 2 on one. Eventually, it ended up in Penton colors. But this became Eric's project, and because of his ingenuity and his way of keeping things going, he kept that thing going for many, many years, and eventually it ended its life again with Eric driving on an on-ramp in Oregon when he ran out of brakes.
Oh.
Yep, so that was the end of the Husqvarna Cycleliner, but that was sort of a chapter in Husqvarna and Eric's history that I think, is worthwhile talking about it and noting.
Gunnar Lindstrom, thank you for taking the time to speak with us and telling us about your time with Eric Crippa, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Okay. Motion Pro still running a special. Go over to Motion Pro, you check out, use the code MP9135, MP9135, and you'll get 20% off everything at Motion Pro. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X Magazine. Be sure to get Racer X either on your newsstand or online right now. 1973, Cherokee MX Park in Opelousas, Louisiana, hosted a second round of the 1973 AMA National Motocross Championship in the 250 class. Jimmy Weinert gave Kawasaki its first ever 250 national win, followed by Suzuki-mounted Rich Thorwaldsen, Yamaha-mounted Barry Higgins, and Honda's Dwayne Jones. Over in Switzerland, Hakan Andersson continued to pull away in the 250cc World Championship standing. The Swedish rider was aboard a prototype Yamaha monoshock motorcycle that would usher in the single shock era of motocross. Andersson swept both motos, followed by German Mako rider Adolf Veal and U.S. rider Jim Pomeroy, riding a Bultaco, finished 6th overall. In the FIM 250 World Championship races, it was Jim Pomeroy. He won the first moto, but lost out on the overall to a steadier Torleif Hansen, who was trying to land Kawasaki its first world title, and went 3-2 to Pomeroy's 1-5. This is at the Polish GP. The winner of the second moto and eventual 76 250cc motocross world champion, Heikki Mikkola. It was a weird national. It was a weird event. It was a non-national actually, and it was at Lake Whitney, Texas. Former 3-time AMA 250 national champion Gary Jones shocked local hero and factory Husqvarna rider Kent Howerton and Suzuki rider Steve Wise in a $5,000 expert finale at Lake Whitney Cycle Ranch. What made the shocker even more unusual was the fact that Gary Jones was riding a motorcycle he and his father had made in Mexico called an ice low. And that's what's happening all those years ago in motocross history. We're going to move right on because I'm fresh out of commercial to the finish line. Susie, are you back up online on the show?
I have a winner.
Oh, good. Because you know what? Why don't we announce the winner of
The viewer appreciation.
yeah? Why don't we announce the winner of the viewer appreciation prize? And I'll put your beautiful face back on camera. There you are. Who is the winner of the?
The winner this week of the viewer appreciation prize is Keith Zebreg. Keith Zebreg. Congratulations.
Keith Zebreg.
Yeah.
Keith Zebreg on our Vintage Motocross Q&A page or in the comments right now. Well, don't put your address in the comments, but go over to the Vintage Motocross Q&A page or my personal page, Joe Abadi. Text me a message that has your address in it. I will send it to Terry Good. Terry Good will wrap up the poster of your choice, which means you have to go to the International Motocross Museum website. Pick out a poster, send me your address. We'll get everything all tightened up for you. And you are this week's winner of the International Motocross Museum poster of your choice. Now, we were at the finish line. Finish line is brought to you by ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. On the show last week, we had Paul Parkinson Sr. He was talking about all the things he has been making and continues to make for all different kinds of motorcycles, including Kickstarter knuckles, air boots like this. Kickstarter, the whole Kickstarter assembly for 74, 75 Honda CR 125 and 250s. Last week when Paul was here, he's talking about this. He's now making lay shafts and output shafts. That's right. Steel shafts and gears for Honda motorcycles. Get over to ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com to learn more about what Paul Parkinson is making for your bikes. And you know something, a little bit earlier in the show, when I ran that One Lung Racing video, I didn't realize how many parts that young man he got from Ventco and from ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. So, good on him and good on that video for using some of our sponsors' products. Burnworth's race went off last weekend without a hitch. Don't forget, if you missed the first two at Paris and Verona, Glen Helen's coming up in October. It'll be beautiful weather down there in Southern California. Scott Burnworth. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are still available. Just $20 and up. You can get t-shirts in white, black, or gray, long sleeve or short sleeve. You can get sleeveless if you want one too. The prices are as follow.
They
can get any color actually. And the prices start at $20 for a t-shirt, and they go all the way up to double XL and 5XL.
Right.
For you big boys, including shipping and handling. They're $60 for the 5XL. Plus shipping and handling. We sold about 6 shirts this week. I've been peddling them out there on the marketplace and on Facebook. So whoever purchased one, thank you so much. And we'll have more for you. We got them ready to go. Black, white, or gray. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts. Sponsorship opportunities are still available. Get a hold of me. You can be seeing all the benefits of all of our sponsors at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Next week, I am going to return with your favorite thing, trivia. We're going to have trivia next week. We'll give away a book by Keith Geisner, Discovering 6 Days. You know, we're almost out of books, Keith. You got to write another book.
You have to, don't forget the Ventco bag.
Oh, and you know what? On Saturday, before the Supercross, check my page, check the Vintage Motocross Q&A page. We will have a brand new Ventco bag available. I want to give it away. This is the last race of Supercross for the season. So go over there and we will we'll try and give away again a Ventco bag. In the meantime, is Gino available, Susie, or is he
They need to pick 3 riders.
you need to pick 3 riders in any order. Okay?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll even take them in reverse order. Just pick
No, just 3 riders.
okay.
In the right order.
3 riders according to the boss. Gino! Come here, Gino. Okay, there he is.
Handball is in the house.
That's it. That wraps it up for another episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget, keep sharing the show and send me in your bikes for the Moto Showcase and your questions for next time. Try this and all that good stuff. Till we see you next time, I'm Joe Abadi. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye, Susie.
Bye.